Well, it happened at midnight. While the world was sleeping, President Trump gave the green light. American bombers armed with bunker busters built for one job, they were already in the sky. Their target? Iran's last nuclear stronghold. But why? Because hours earlier, Iran spat in Trump's face. They didn't just reject his call for peace, they issued a threat that crossed every red line. We will never surrender is what they said. If the U.S. interferes, there will be irreparable damage. And with those very words, the final insult was delivered. What followed, though, was one of the most decisive moves by a U.S. president in modern history. Not a tweet, not a warning, a direct military response. The Fordow facility, once buried deep beneath the mountains of Iran, is now on fire. So, of course, today, I'm going to walk you guys through what really happened inside that White House Situation Room, how President Trump's intel team tracked the supreme leader's exact location, and why Israeli generals are calling this the turning point of the entire war. Also, what did President Trump say just before ordering the strike, and what did he hold back? Why did Iran dare him knowing that U.S. bombers were airborne? And what is this mysterious surprise for the world that Iranian state media says is still coming? Well, of course, I'm going to break down all of those details in this video. Every leaked quote, every missile launch, every defiant moment, and why it matters not just for Israel, for Iran, but for you, for your family, and for the future of global power, guys. So if you appreciate the daily news updates, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support, guys. Listen up, guys. By the time that this video ends, you are going to completely understand why this wasn't just some kind of midnight airstrike. It was really a message. It was a historic message sent from Washington to Tehran and really any other nation who's still underestimating Donald J. Trump. So just hours before the first bombers even entered Iranian airspace, President Trump issued one final chance for peace. It was a demand that was very simple, it was brutal, and it was non-negotiable. Surrender unconditionally now, or we end this ourselves. Iran didn't flinch. In fact, they doubled down. The Supreme Leader's office released a chilling statement saying, "We will never surrender. If the United States intervenes, the consequences will be irreversible." And just like that, the diplomatic clock hit zero. And it wasn't just a rejection, it was a slap. It was an insult that frankly made war feel inevitable. But they didn't even stop there. Almost immediately, satellite intel confirmed movement of Iranian missile launchers. Their aim, U.S. bases in Iraq, Syria, and the Persian Gulf. And while Trump was still deliberating with military brass in the Situation Room, Iran launched a wave of missiles at central Israel directly targeting Tel Aviv. Israel's Iron Dome intercepted most of them, but some got through, shaking buildings and rattling nerves. Iran was no longer bluffing. They just weren't just rejecting peace, they were also daring the United States to act. And that was the final insult. But what exactly did President Trump do next? Of course, I got to take you guys inside the Situation Room where President Trump made the call. You're going to hear the exact quotes that he posted in the hours before the strike and why even the vice president had to step in and address the nation directly. At exactly 9 p.m. Eastern Time on June 17th, President Donald J. Trump returned to the White House, cutting his G7 trip short. Why? Because intelligence reports confirmed Iran wasn't bluffing. They had moved into strike position. Tel Aviv had been hit. U.S. bases were being targeted next. So Trump entered the Situation Room not with diplomats, but with generals. That meeting lasted 1 hour and 20 minutes. Sources described it as tense, focused, and final. One official said, "You could feel it. This was the night diplomacy died." So inside of that room, President Trump reviewed the satellite footage, listened to the strike scenarios from CENTCOM, and received updated coordinates on Iran's Fordow facility, the fortified nuclear site that was buried deep below the mountains. But the decision wasn't just about missiles and maps, it was about a message, and Trump made that message crystal clear. If you're paying more than you should for Medicare, well, then you're not alone. But you don't have to stay on that track. Sharon Bertusik, she got kicked off of Medicaid and she was struggling with her costs, but then she called Chapter, who later helped her land a brand new plan with zero premiums, zero medication costs, and a copay that was reduced from $89 to $20. Nancy, 78 years old, another caller, from our channel called Chapter. She said, hey, Ron, Chapter just saved me $600 a year. I pay $1,500 a month in rent. This savings may let me stay in my home. Guys, these aren't rare wins. These are everyday people just like you watching the show who decided to call Chapter and get the help that they deserve. So give our friends at Chapter a call right now. It's totally free on top of that. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, visit them on the web. Link in the description down below and in the pinned comment at askchapter.org/Ron, because your health and your peace of mind shouldn't be optional, guys. Now, shortly before midnight, President Trump, he jumped on Truth Social and he delivered a string of now viral statements. He said, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but we will still not kill him, not yet. Then he wrote, unconditional surrender must happen now or we will destroy you. And then finally, he said, our patience is wearing thin. 3 sentences, 1 warning, 0 ambiguity. This wasn't posturing, this was preparation. By the time those posts hit the feed, U.S. bombers were already in the air. They were loaded, they were fueled, and they were just waiting for the go code. But what did President or Vice President J.D. Vance say that stunned even Washington insiders? And what intelligence did Trump receive that pushed him past the point of no return? Well, as the bombers were roaring toward their targets, Vice President J.D. Vance, he issued a statement that shocked even, people within the Beltway. Here's what he said. President Trump has always been clear. Iran will never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. We offered peace. Iran chose escalation. This is not a war of choice. It's a response to years of cowardice and failure. He continued by saying Iran could have had civilian nuclear power. They rejected it. They lied. They threatened American lives. And now we act. This was not about regime change. It wasn't about occupation. It was about neutralizing a threat, one that had been ignored by the previous administration and weaponized by Iran. J.D. Vance's tone was cold, it was calculated, and it matched Trump's tone. No more games, no more fake negotiations. It was clear. The United States wasn't just responding to missiles, it was responding to decades of betrayal. And what happened after midnight is what really made history. At 12:02 a.m. Tehran time, the sky broke. Multiple B-2 Spirit stealth bombers previously stationed in Diego Garcia and Al Udeid Air Base began their final approach into Iranian airspace. Each bomber was carrying the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator. It's a 30,000-pound bunker buster designed for one mission only, to crack the uncrackable. And at the same time, aerial refueling tankers, they were already airborne. More than 30 KC-135 Stratotankers had been positioned in the region days earlier, giving the bombers unlimited range and operational flexibility. Down below in the Gulf, the USS Nimitz battle group began maneuvering into final strike alignment. Missile defense systems lit up, air traffic in the region froze. This wasn't a drill, this was real, and it had a name, Midnight Strike. Now, let's talk about Fordow, Iran's crown jewel of nuclear secrecy. Buried more than 260 feet below solid rock, that's like 26 stories underground. Deep into the mountains near Qom, Fordow has long been out of reach for even Israel's best bunker-piercing weapons, but not for America. According to military analysts, Fordow has been actively enriching uranium to near weapons-grade level in direct defiance of international law and nuclear agreements. IAEA inspectors were blocked. Transparency vanished. That's why Israel requested Trump's help. That's why U.S. bombers carried the only weapon on Earth capable of obliterating it in one strike. And this is exactly what happened. Multiple MOPs were dropped in sequence, punching deeper and deeper with each impact until finally the heart of Fordow detonated in a shockwave of fire and seismic collapse. And here's what no one saw coming. Iran didn't fire back. Why? Well, also, what role did Israeli fighter jets play in clearing the way? And how did Trump establish complete control of Iranian airspace in under an hour? Well, what made this strike not just effective, but historic was how the U.S. and Israel took complete control of Iranian skies. Just before the bombers hit Fordow, Israeli F-35I Adir fighter jets began a series of preemptive raids on Iran's surface-to-air missile systems, radar installations, and communication hubs. 5 attack helicopters were destroyed on the ground. Key radar towers were taken offline within minutes. And with that, the air defense matrix Iran spent decades building collapsed. President Trump, hours later, confirmed it himself on Truth Social. We now have complete and total control over the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, plenty of it, but it did not compare to American-made. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. That's Trump talk for you, isn't it? Former CENTCOM commander General Joseph Votel, he appeared live on air and he said, Iran's defensive grid has been rendered mute. This may be the only opportunity we've ever had where complete air dominance over Iran has been achieved by allied forces. It changes everything. Now, guys, this wasn't just a strike. This was a demonstration of precision, of power, of planning. Now, if you think that Iran just took this laying down, well, think again. Where did the supreme leader go during the strike? Why is Iran's state media threatening a surprise that the world will remember for centuries? And is this truly over, or is something far worse brewing beneath the surface? Well, in the hours following the midnight strike, something strange happened in Tehran. The supreme leader vanished. According to U.S. intelligence and Israeli intercepts, Ayatollah Khamenei was evacuated from a government compound just before the strike began. He is believed to be hiding in a fortified underground facility outside Qom, shielded by layers of hardened steel and propaganda. Now, Iranian media hasn't shown any new footage, no live broadcast, no new press conferences, no photo ops. Just a carefully worded message from state-run TV. There will be a surprise the world will remember for centuries. So what does that mean? A nuclear response? A cyber attack? A wave of proxy strikes across the West? Another 9/11 style attack? Nobody knows for sure, really, but everybody is watching and nobody believes that this is over. So now I want to talk about the global powers. I want to talk about Russia. As expected, they tried to insert themselves as a peacemaker. Putin's state media released a message claiming the Russian Federation is prepared to mediate between Iran and Israel in the interest of regional stability. President Trump didn't even respond. Sources say when Putin offered to negotiate, Trump said, "Don't you have another war to be losing?" Cold, direct Trump. Meanwhile, China issued a bland, non-committal warning urging de-escalation and dialogue. But behind the scenes, tensions are rising. Let's not forget, just weeks ago, Israeli intelligence caught Russian-made weapons in the hands of Hamas and Hezbollah. Now that fractured the already fragile Israeli-Russia relationship. Bottom line here, guys, the power players are repositioning. But no one wants to challenge the United States right now, not when B-2 bombers just melted Fordow off the map. But back here at home, the battle lines are being drawn in Washington. What is Congress saying about Trump's strike? Why are some calling this heroic while others are warning that this is a step toward World War III? And is Trump's ultimate goal peace, or is it total regime collapse? So within minutes of the news breaking, Capitol Hill exploded. Several Republican leaders praised President Trump for doing what previous presidents refused to do. This was long overdue, is what they said. Iran has attacked Americans for decades with zero consequences. That era is over. That came from Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Trump's decision tonight wasn't about war. It was about ending a threat. That came from Senator Josh Hawley. But not everybody is celebrating here. Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called the strike reckless and unconstitutional, demanding immediate congressional hearings and even war power limitations. Then, of course, there's Thomas Massie, a libertarian Republican who warned, we cannot stumble into another endless conflict. The American people deserve a vote before more blood is spilled. So where does the public stand? Well, trending on social media right now, hashtag Trump was right, hashtag Midnight Madness, hashtag no more wars. So America is watching and the world is guessing. Was this a preemptive strike or the first shot of something bigger, much bigger? The real reason that President Trump gave the green light, it all goes back to one name, Fordow. So, of course, we need to talk about why this one facility was the final red line for Trump, how Iran fooled the IAEA, and what inspectors admitted that they couldn't confirm, and why this wasn't just a strike, it was a message to the world. So, to understand why President Trump authorized the midnight strike, you have to understand what Fordow is. It's not just another nuclear facility. It is Iran's deepest, most fortified, and most secretive enrichment site, buried beneath over 260 feet of reinforced concrete and granite. Originally disguised as a civilian research center, Fordow was exposed by Western intelligence as an active uranium enrichment site capable of reaching weapons grade levels. The IAEA, the world's nuclear watchdog, recently admitted that they could neither confirm nor deny what was really going on inside. Why? It's because Iran blocked access again, and they mockingly bragged about secret sites elsewhere. That was the final straw. Trump had warned them. No more red lines, no more hidden bunkers, and when diplomacy failed, Fordow became the bullseye. So this wasn't just about destroying uranium stockpiles. This was about restoring deterrence. President Trump said it himself. This is not war. This is enforcement. Enforcement of what, though? Accountability, credibility, and peace through strength. He didn't invade. He didn't occupy. He didn't drag America into another multi-year quagmire. He sent a message, one that echoed from Washington to Tehran to Pyongyang. If you threaten America or our allies, we will not wait, we will strike. And make no mistake, this was also a message to Russia, China, and every rogue actor watching from the shadows. But here's the real question. Is this over? Or is Iran just getting started? So of course we need to talk about the real-time intelligence on potential sleeper cells, cyber retaliation, and the next strike options already being drawn up at CENTCOM. And Trump, he's not ruling out a follow-up. In fact, he said, we will finish what others were too weak to start. So as of this moment, June 18th, 2025, U.S. bombers remain deployed and circling. Naval assets are locked into the Persian Gulf, and intelligence chatter is escalating by the hour. Sleeper cells, multiple U.S. agencies have raised internal threat levels after intercepts suggested possible attacks on American soil from Iranian-backed agents or affiliated groups in Latin America or Europe. Cyber retaliation? Well, the Department of Homeland Security has already confirmed a wave of Iranian-originated probing attempts on U.S. energy grids and financial networks. No breaches yet, but the message is clear. They are trying. Proxy warfare, sources say, Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria are mobilizing, and Hezbollah's elite units in Lebanon have been put on high alert. And yet, Trump isn't backing down. He's not asking for a ceasefire. He's not asking for negotiation. He's asking for surrender. And in his words, we're not trying to occupy Tehran. We're trying to end the threat so no one ever dares threaten America again. The question now is, will Iran back down? Or will they make the same mistake that they made before the Fordow strike, underestimating what America is willing to do under a president who means it? So guys, this was Midnight Strike, a moment that may very well redefine the next decade of global power. But this story is far from over. Iran has promised a response. Trump has promised to finish it. And America just proved we still lead when it comes to what matters most. Now, if you believe this was the right move, I want you to drop a fire emoji in the comments. If you're worried about heading toward a bigger war, type watch closely. Now, be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell button, because the next 72 hours, ladies and gentlemen, may change everything. As always, appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you next time. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.